Let's face it, bad light happens everywhere. Whether it's too dark, uneven, or just plain uncooperative, we've all been there. You're standing in the moment, camera in hand, and then the light refuses to play nice. But here's the thing, bad light isn't the enemy, it's an opportunity. Some of my most memorable shots were taken in conditions where the light was anything but perfect. It forced me to get creative, adaptive, and pushed myself as a photographer. And today I want to share some of those moments with you. The struggles, the lessons, and the surprising wins that came from working in bad light. By the end of this video, I hope you see challenging light not as an obstacle, but as a tool to make your photography better and more meaningful. Let's kick things off in Brisbane, Australia. I was walking through the park one night testing out my new Fujifilm X-T2 at the time. It was brand new, like it just came out like a month before I got it. I barely knew its full potential, and that's when I saw this guy working out in this little area right here. He was doing push-ups, squats. He was just doing a lot of body weight exercises. Afterwards, he was doing a plank. That overhead light illuminated him like a spotlight in the middle of the dark, which is freaking cool. I quickly framed up the shot and took it at 1/10 of a second, and it was handheld. There's a lot of camera shake, motion blur, but honestly, that adds to the rawness of the image that you're seeing right now. The imperfect lighting made this scene feel gritty and real, and it's like something out of a cinematic moment, in my opinion. This shot taught me that even bad lighting can be your greatest asset. That overhead spotlight created drama and focus, and it told a story. You have the spotlight shining down on the dude as he's holding his plank, followed by a symmetrical light composition coming from the yellow rails behind him, and as well, you have the highway in the background with the condo lights and the street lights shining. This photo isn't technically sound by any means, it's not sharp, but it was one of my first photos where I thought it told a story. I didn't know what I was looking for. It was dark everywhere in this area. As soon as he entered the scene, I knew I wanted that shot. So what's the takeaway here? Don't let low light stop you. Look for unique lighting in your surroundings and use it to your advantage. A single light source can transform a scene into something unforgettable. Let's move on to scene number 2. This is in Noosa, Australia during sunset. That night was just incredible. It was a mix of purple, pink, and orange. The light was fading so fast and I didn't have much time to plan my shot. What happened was I framed the silhouette of a figure against a vibrant sky pointing to the crescent moon that was just high up there in the sky. Now, to me, this image isn't perfect. I feel like it's still out of focus. It wasn't as sharp as I would like. The fading light did introduce urgency into me as a photographer, and that made me as a photographer feel a little bit rushed. I couldn't get my settings in properly. And here's the thing though, none of that matters because this photo captured a fleeting moment that was gone in seconds. The imperfections give it a little bit of character and it feels real. So why does this work? This shot is a reminder that photography is about being present. Sometimes you don't have time to overthink or fine-tune your settings. When the light is fleeting, you must adapt and you must improvise and you capture the moment. That's where the magic happens. I literally had like 20 seconds before the light completely died, so I turned on my camera, didn't think about the settings much, and just started firing away. Let's talk about being resourceful in bad lighting. So one winter, my buddy Ray and I drove out to Hamilton, Ontario to shoot with a model. It was cold, it was dark, and the location, it's Hamilton. It's very uninspiring. There's nothing there. So we decided to shoot inside his car. I had a couple of pocket of RGB lights with me and we just got creative with it. We used one as a fill light, adjusting to the colors to create like this cool cinematic vibe inside the car. It was tight quarters that forced us to think outside the box. And the results are some great looking cinematic portraits that I've done. Why does this work? So this situation taught me that bad light doesn't mean no light. Sometimes you just gotta bring your own, whether it's a pocket RGB light or a reflector or just like a flashlight. Adding a light source gives you a control over your scene. It's just a great way to turn a boring situation into something much more creative. Let's talk about gear for a moment here. Here's the truth. You don't need a full frame camera to shoot in low light. Would it make your life easier? Sure, but limitations can make you more creative. I've shot low-light portraits with crop-censored Fujifilm cameras for years, and no one's ever complained about my photos lacking that full-frame look. The most important thing is to understand your gear's limitation. Know how to push your camera's ISO, know how to compensate with light, use fast lenses with wide apertures, f2.8, f2, f1.4, f1.2, f0.95. these lenses are your best friends. And even if all you have is a kit lens, you can still make it work. But you need more light. Light is the ultimate equalizer. So I don't want to hear any excuses about you having bad gear. Just make it work. You can get creative. Limitations makes us more creative. I wholeheartedly agree with that. If you look at TikTok, there's a bunch of these African kids who made a feature-length film on their smartphones, and they edited all on CapCut, which is a video editor for your smartphone. Like I saw some of the clips and it looked very, very cheesy with the effects and all that. But you gotta give these kids props and their due for just being so creative. This is something that me, would have never thought of doing. Like filming on your smartphones and editing that entire film on CapCut. And they were really, really creative with it too. That's why if these kids can do it, like there's no excuses coming from you guys. Let's move on to this downtown portrait shot right here. Sometimes when you're working with less than ideal light, you just gotta work with what you got. I want to tell you about this shot that I took downtown. It was nighttime and the scene was lit only by the ambient street lights, window lights, whatever was around this area, and the occasional car headlights cutting through the darkness. So behind the subject in this photo, you can see the car headlights casting a glow in our direction. Everything about this shot was on the fly and a little bit chaotic because you never know when a car could creep up right behind you. For this particular image, I used what I call the spray and pray method. I had my camera set to burst because I knew putting perfectly steady at a low shutter speed in this light was going to be tricky. Why am I using a low shutter speed? I want more light to come into the scene. I told my model to hold still and I shot off multiple frames, knowing that some would be blurry due to camera shake and some hand movement, but trusted that one of them would come out sharp enough. This was the shot that stood out from the rest. And honestly, I couldn't be happier with how it turned out. So why does this work? The success of this shot comes down to using all the lights available. Street lights, headlights, window signs, ambient lights. By embracing the elements in this chaotic city, I was able to create a cinematic and moody portrait that I still love to this day. It's one of my favorite portraits that I took. Now look at the bokeh in the background. These out of focus lights create depth and a sense of place, drawing your eyes directly to the subject. Because I was using a prism, you can see these cool little light streaks coming in and these oddly shaped bokeh balls as well. The key lesson here is don't be afraid to work with bad light in this case. This is light that is unconventional, directional, or uneven. The car headlights behind the subject added backlighting that gave her hair and shoulder a little glow. Street lights acted like a fill light, giving soft illumination to her face. And those colorful background lights, they're just brought in a playful elements and vibrancy that wouldn't exist in a more controlled or perfect lighting scenario. This was all on the whim, and that's why I love like shooting like portraits at nighttime, downtown, in a big city. It's just so awesome to get like lights like this that you don't often get. So this scene has taught me that sometimes bad lighting isn't bad, it's just misunderstood. It forces you to get creative and look at what you have instead of what you don't. Using ambient light like this can transform a difficult situation into an opportunity for a unique atmospheric shot, but it also reinforces the value of preparation and the knowledge. Having my camera ready to shoot in bursts and communicating with my model about staying still helped me land the sharpest shot in challenging conditions. It's not the sharpest photo that I've taken, but having an in-focus shot, it isn't everything. It is important though. So like Fujifilm, like fix your firmware so we can get good autofocus. But it was one of the more meaningful shots that I took, because it conveys emotions, mood, and intrigue. It takes you on this ride, this journey, and that's something that I like chasing. So pro tip for your next shoot. So if you're shooting in a similar environment, don't just rely on one light source. Layer the lights into your frame by using whatever is available. Combine street lights, reflections, neon lights, headlights, anything that creates contrast, depth, or texture into your photo. If you're hand-holding your camera at a low shutter speed, try that intentional spray and pray method. Shoot multiple frames in quick succession to increase your odds of getting that one sharp magical shot. And that's if you don't have IBIS, of course. It's a lot better. It's a lot easier nowadays if you have IBIS. So this photo reminds me why I love shooting in urban environments at night. There's so much character in these lights and shadows, and the imperfections are what makes the image stand out. So the next time you're downtown at night, embrace the chaos of the light around you. It might just surprise you. So here's the thing about bad light. It's not really bad. It's just different. Challenges you, pushes you out of your comfort zone, and forces you to think differently about your craft. Every situation I shared today taught me something, whether it was learning to embrace my imperfections, trusting my instincts, or getting creative with what I had. These moments made me a better photographer. So the next time you catch yourself grumbling about the light, just pause and ask yourself, what can I do with what I got? How can I turn this into an opportunity instead of a limitation? Because photography isn't about waiting for the perfect conditions. It's about creating something meaningful no matter the circumstances. The photos that I shared in today's videos aren't technically perfect. Some of these photos aren't even sharp. Others have soft focus, and a few are just slightly off. But what they do have is character. Each of these shots tells a story. Each one makes you feel something. And that's what I want you to take away from this. When you're shooting in bad light, focus on adding a character. Tell a story. Make your viewers feel something. Because at the end of the day, that's what great photography is all about. If this video helps you see things differently, or maybe just inspired you to pick up the camera, consider subscribing to my channel for more photography tips and tricks content like this. And I appreciate you guys for watching to the end and for your continued support. Thanks so much.